You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today we welcome back our friend Joe Frick, owner and chief marketing officer at Idaho Divorce Law. We had the pleasure of hosting Joe in December 2022 on episode 122. We've done about twice as many now. So Joe, how you doing?
I've been doing great. Firm's doing great. Family's doing great. Nothing but growth since then.
That's awesome, man. Can't wait to get into it. Joe's also an Air Force vet. Thank you for your service, sir. And today, we're going to discuss Joe's story and some legal marketing. Joe's the author of C.A.S.E.² Framework, the Frick Factor. Joe's going to tell us to stop working on cases you will never get paid on. It's a book Joe is going to release for attorneys who want to take control of their time and client relationships by running their firm like a business, systematically, predictably, and profitably. Welcome again, Joe.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure. So give us just a brief background about where you're from and what inspired you to go to law school.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Southeast Kansas, kind of small town. There's like 1,500 people there, so not a lot of stuff going on growing up. So it's the basic, sports, free sports, and then you get out of high school, then you get a job, and then you stay there forever.
Wow.
But I've been out of there since 2006 when I joined the Air Force, and then since then I got out and I went to law school. Then I tried big law for about 3 years. Didn't like that much. I like the practice area, but not like the big law feel of everything.
Right.
So after that, I started at a smaller firm for a little bit, for like 6 months in Billings, Montana. And then after that, we were getting ready to have a kid, our second kid. So we decided that we wanted to be closer to family. So we moved towards my wife's family in Idaho. So we're based out of Boise. We've been here for 9 years now. So the firm's been open 9 years, and it's been great.
That's awesome. What was the experience like in the Air Force?
It's a pretty typical job. I mean, when you think about it, it's a 9 to 5, especially for kind of the stuff that I was doing. I was an aircraft electrician on F-15s.
Wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, the stuff that was, not the job is the deployments, like going to Afghanistan and Korea and all that other stuff. But yeah, it's just a job.
Did you go to those places or no?
Yeah, I got stationed in Mountain Home, Idaho, is where I met my wife. And then during that time frame in 2008, I got deployed to Bagram, Afghanistan.
Wow.
Which wasn't bad. I never had to leave the base, but I was still over there.
Yep.
Came back for about 8 months, and then I got deployed to South Korea. So that was pretty fun, and I studied for the bar exam while I was there.
Wow.
Took the bar exam when I got back to the States, or the LSAT, sorry. Took the LSAT when I got back to the States, and I got a full ride to law school, which kind of was right after I got out. I went to law school right after that.
It's amazing. So why law, though?
It's one of those things, growing up poor, you don't really realize you can do these things, or there's opportunities or ways you can get stuff. Like,
Right.
There's things that you can do that everybody does that gets you to where you want to be. And I never realized that. And it was always kind of a goal of mine to be a lawyer growing up. But it's kind of just one of those things that I actually had the opportunity to do it because I had the GI Bill. And then I got a full ride after that with the LSAT
Wow.
score. So it was that. And I just really like helping people, which is kind of the reason why we moved from all the other stuff that I've tried to mainly just family law. And that's pretty much all we've been doing for the past 5 years now.
Yeah, that's right. You went on from doing some other areas of law to exclusively family law. I just gotta ask, like when you're in the Air Force, have you used any like the electrician like knowledge now, like stuff
Oh
right
yeah.
now? I mean, I just that's so technical and such a good skill. Like you gotta be like up there fixing lights or something, right?
Yeah, so it's electrical and environmental, so we're not just
Okay.
dealing with the wires, we're dealing with the HVAC too. But yeah, I've definitely used a lot of the skills that I've gotten from the Air Force to now. A lot of it deals with problem solving too, because when you're looking at a schematic with hundreds and hundreds of wires that go from one end of the jet to the other, and
Shit.
you got to figure out where
Oh
the
my goodness.
point is and which parts you have to replace to get it back to working. It's a lot of problem solving skills that you got to help work on, which I think that's helped me through law school and then through today, because
Yeah.
now it's just the marketing piece
Oh,
is a lot of
totally.
problem
Yeah, we're gonna
solving.
talk
So
about marketing, and bro, let me tell you, like I can't even put anything together from IKEA. So that's a pretty good that's pretty good problem solving, and you got all these. I can see you with like that big sheet of paper trying to this wire goes there, that wire
yeah,
goes here. I'd have the whole
yeah,
neighborhood's lights off before you even knew it.
yeah.
Fantastic. So tell us since 2022, the end of 2022, I believe we actually recorded a few days before Christmas. What have you been up to? Like we're gonna get down into all this stuff, but just generally, like what have you been doing?
Mhm. Um, a lot. I don't even know where to start from since 2022. Just the last 8 months, I got diagnosed with ADHD, so I finally got on the right medication so I can actually
Okay.
focus on stuff. So I've fit about 5 to 6 years worth of progress into that 8 months because I feel like Superman now.
Wow.
But
Okay.
yeah, but before that, I've been learning videography and photography, and which has helped with all the marketing. But that's just more
Wow.
just a
Wicked cool.
general passion. Like I really like both of those things, um,
Okay.
which feeds into pretty much all of my hobbies are related to business and how to make more money. Um,
What kind of
I've
things do you like to go like photograph? Besides like when you're doing marketing, like legal marketing, like do you like to just go
yeah,
out in like the mountains or something? Is that?
yeah, it depends. I mean, I kind of do whatever. I like cityscapes the most,
Oh,
and I actually
interesting. Okay.
yeah, I have a Boise cityscape Instagram page where I just have
Do you really? Can I? I'd like to
cityscapes.
look at some of that at some point. That's
Yeah,
cool. That's wicked
yeah,
cool.
I've got a ton of pictures to add on there, but I take pictures there like statues and then just like interesting angles and but cityscapes a lot. I do a lot of pictures of my kids, a lot of portrait photography, I guess you would
Cool.
call
Okay.
it. Yeah, that's about it. But and then the videos for marketing, which is I like, but the I like the back end kind of stuff. So like I like writing the scripts, but I like really like to make them like listen to the music and get like the beat down and like what kind of mood or vibe the video wants, and then
Yeah.
I like to do that first and then tailor the script to the mood of the music, and
Wicked
then
cool. Okay.
yeah, then just tying all that back up in Premiere Pro is really interesting. It's like a big puzzle to me. It's
Yeah,
like
that's great. Like
this
that's
is where it builds, and then this is where it drops, and then which pieces do I want where, which one's going to have the best effect as far as emotions go, stuff like that. That's really fun for me.
that. Yeah, no, that's cool to have that. So tell us about like what's the frick flat factor? Excuse me. What is the frick factor?
Uh, well, the frick factor itself it's hard to put words on, but I'm starting a YouTube channel, but essentially it's going to be building basically just on law firm growth, mainly for family law firms because that's
Oh,
what
cool.
I know the most about. So within that, it's going to be the YouTube channel, but there's also going to be an online community, more than likely called the Command or the Command Post, because that's kind of where I'm dealing with my CRM. I'm building all the stuff on the back end on Go High level.
Tell us
So
what CRM stands for.
it's a customer relationship management software.
Yep.
So Clio Grow, Lawmatics, all those are CRM systems, but I'm building all my stuff on Go High level at the moment where it's got a ton of different automations and I kind of do everything inside of that. But we white labeled that as the command post internally. So I might be releasing that, in the future, but that's not really quite done yet. But essentially, it's the channel dedicated to building your systems, building your intake system for sure, especially in the very near future, because I just got done with the book. So all the training on the Frick Factor YouTube channel is going to be geared mainly toward intake, sales, and marketing.
But let me throw in there. So it's family law though.
Yeah.
So I think that that's huge to emphasize that this is all for family law, right?
Yeah, because the family law, that's what I'm best at. I've
That's
kind
what
of
you're
had,
best at because I'm saying there's
yeah.
like a lot, personal injury and everything else is out there, like we've talked intake with people, we talked, just like retention and the whole CRM thing. So I think it's really important. That would like be my little like 2 cents that,
Yeah.
you definitely like label it as like, this is for family law firms.
Yeah. And I'm very good at family law, but I've had several permutations of the firm. I've had Joe Frick Law, which is mainly personal injury, and I did that for about 2 or 3 years before we switched to the divorce law firm side, just because I like helping people on that end. But before that, I did bankruptcy. I did nothing but bankruptcy for about a
Wow.
year and a half. I did nothing but DUIs for a year and a half. I had a website. I sold that whole brand to somebody else.
Wow.
So I've taken all these marketing pieces and like how each different practice area works and operates and kind of used all those advantages and shoving it into the family law hole, because personal injury marketing is a lot different than family law marketing. Bankruptcies marketing is a lot different than family law and personal injury. So it's just a lot of testing and figuring out what works. And inside the community specifically is going to be having kind of the frameworks that I'm using, which I'm calling Frick Factor frameworks.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah, so I like words with all the same letters,
Yeah.
but it's going to be all about that. It's going to be showing inside the community, at least it'll be having, what ads I'm using, what's working right now, what kind of targeting I'm doing on the back end of these ads, kind of showing, behind the scenes of what we do at our firm, because we've grown 40% year over year for the past like 5 years.
Wow.
And I could grow faster if I had more attorneys, but that's kind of the bottleneck that I'm having at the moment.
Wow, that's a lot, Joe.
Yes.
So you've worked in a lot of different. Have you got a mentor? And this isn't just a. I'm asking you. This isn't just like a canned question. I'm just asking that because it seems like you were able to figure out DUI. You were able to figure out bankruptcy. You worked in family law. Obviously, that's like your bread and butter now. But like, did you have like a mentor? Or did you end up figuring it all out yourself?
A lot of it was figuring it out on my own. I do like to read, and before I got diagnosed with ADHD, it was really hard for me to focus on anything other than like marketing and systems. So
Are
for
you
some
like, man, I
reason,
can't believe I went to like law school and like all this
yeah,
stuff without getting diagnosed? Like,
it was crazy. Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but finally the doctor. Well, what happened was I got in a car crash. I thought I had a TBI. This was in July of 2023. Yeah, no, 2022.
okay.
So, but anyway, since I thought I had a TBI, so I went through all this treatment through like TMS, the electronic stuff. I did ketamine, I did all this stuff. None of it worked, and I just kept having brain fog and super bad headaches, and I couldn't do anything. And then they finally said, "Oh, well, have you been checked for ADHD?" I'm like, "No, I never have," and then that was it.
That's crazy. After all these
Yeah.
years, I mean, yeah, it's crossed my mind too to like, you know, get
Hmm.
checked because I don't know, how were you like a good reader in law school? Like, could you read things really like quickly and just kind of,
No, I've always been a slow reader, which
yeah,
I think
yeah,
that has a
okay.
lot to do with because wasn't interested in those things, so it just turned off my brain for
Oh,
most of it.
you
But
just weren't interested in like a lot of okay.
yeah,
That
so
makes sense.
I had to force my way through it, but it didn't
Yeah.
have a whole lot other than the TBI, which was burnout that I thought was a TBI from a brain crash or a car crash. But
Wow. So so now that you're like a successful attorney, it's good to know that you had that all along. All right, so
yeah,
tell us like what got you so into marketing? Like I know you're super into marketing, you like writing, you told us you
yeah.
like reading. Why now? Like that you have this
Mhm.
firm's rolling 40% last 5 years.
Yeah. Well, I think it probably stemmed from growing up. Like I grew up when I was in high school, I really started like to read a lot. So I read a ton and I did a lot of persuasive writing. I took some writing classes in college before I, got kicked off the track team and, went to the Air Force instead. But a lot of that was just I like writing a lot, I like reading a lot, and copywriting and marketing kind of go. Or copywriting is essentially the backbone of marketing, so I just learned a lot of that and just learning how to write. I just like to learn stuff a lot, and
Okay.
marketing just there's just so much out there that you can learn, and it helps benefit the business. So, and I
Right.
got to do
Right.
side stuff with the cameras and lights and all these lights, and it's just there's a lot there, and it really satisfies my ADD with all of the different things that you can do, which
Yeah. Yeah.
and
What
it's kind of
so
the only thing I could focus on, or could anyway, before that.
so what's like the biggest mistake that you see solo and smaller firms making in their marketing?
Not focusing it on the client and focusing on themselves. I think there's a lot of that, and just not even knowing what to write down at all, or where to start, or where to put anything. Because there's websites, and then there's landing pages, or funnels, if you want to call them funnels. So there's the website, which is kind of like the brochure. You need SEO stuff on that. So like, yeah, you're gonna have a little more generic stuff on your main website,
Hmm.
because you need the SEO, because you're gonna have one dedicated site for SEO. Then you should have several other ones that are dedicated towards just your straight up offers, from like your direct response Google pay-per-click stuff and your stuff on Facebook. You should have different landing pages, or at least tracking for that, because there's on landing pages you can't do a whole lot other than what you ask them to do. And then on the
Right.
website you got a bunch of buttons and it goes everywhere, and they click on whatever, but they're not doing what you specifically want them to do. And when you're paying money to Google, Meta, whoever, like, you want to make sure that you're making your money back. And really the only way to really track that is having separate landing pages, or separate pages on your website, even if it's on your main website, that don't go a bunch of different places. So really positioning where you put stuff, when you put stuff, and how you put it. It's that's a lot, but
Yeah, that's a lot. We have a brand new website, and I need to work on like the SEO aspect of it big time. Like
yeah,
whether it's putting blogs up. I've been giving out we have like a digital badge to our podcast guests and that sort of thing.
yep,
But I'm going to try to make it as rich as I can with SEO when I
yeah,
when I figure out how that works.
yeah. It's definitely a process. I mean, the way I learned it is, the first 6 months to a year of my practice, it was door law, kind of like everybody else that starts a firm. And then I didn't have a lot of business, so I just learned SEO instead. So I built a ton of websites and
Really?
figured out how to put stuff where, but I hired that all out. We kind of brought most of the marketing team in house,
Yep.
um, but I was doing that all by myself for years. So it's kind of just second nature
Wow.
to me.
Okay. Yeah, we have a page on our website that's like, if you have a case, let us know. We know a lot of attorneys that we can
Yep.
co-counsel with. Because I'm licensed in 3 states, so I wouldn't mind throwing some referrals some
Right.
people's way. But we'll see. I got to get that rich in SEO somehow. So I don't think your book's been distributed, right? It's not been out yet. So
No.
can I get a signed copy of it, Joe? When it comes out, you'll send me
Yeah.
a signed
Yep.
copy.
I'll send you a few signed copies.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So
Yeah.
so this is like a pain-based book. You were talking between like pain-based book and what's the other type of book you can.
I was talking more about the headlines, which is another big thing as far as
Right. So,
copywriting and marketing goes. So the title of a book is just like a headline of an ad.
so I want to
So
introduce the book. So I
yeah,
really like the title. I just want to tell you, like, I know
yeah,
you had a Facebook post. You were asking people like, what do what catch? This is definitely a good hook. You need a hook, like you were saying.
yeah.
Stop working weekends on cases you will never get paid on. The case squared framework that only brings in clients you want to work with.
Yep.
And you say the case framework is one of your lifelines.
Oh yeah.
So tell us a
I,
little bit about that.
so, um, I mean, you can do a million consults a day. Like, it's getting free consults for a family law firm, at least for us, is extremely easy, and it's like you can fill your whole calendar up with it, back to back 30-minute free consults. But with the C.A.S.E.² framework, what that does is it whittles those people down. Let's say you have 100 leads a month, and then 50 of those are only actually qualified leads. And from those qualified leads, you only get 25% of the actual schedule, because you're putting friction in the process. So, and where you put the friction and how much kind of
Is
depends
that
on
friction FRICKTION? I just gave you that. All right, there you write it down, Joe.
No, but I'll definitely figure out a way to work that
I
in.
see the wheels turning. How am I going to use
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
go.
It
What's
it
that?
really just cuts all those down to what the most qualified leads are, because
Okay.
most firms that I know don't have a script that they have the intake people say when they're answering the calls. They don't have a way of figuring out who's supposed to be scheduled and when. They kind of just schedule everybody. So the C.A.S.E.² framework kind of gives tools for the intake specialist, the receptionist, to use, whether they're trying to do the free consults or paid consultations.
Okay.
We do only paid consultations because we have way too much work coming in that we can satisfy. So that's when you have to add more friction into the process as far as what those qualifiers are. Because if you don't have 100 leads a month, you're going to be doing free consults because you have to.
Right.
Everybody's been there. You got to get through that process, even if you don't go with the paid eventually. The adding the friction into the qualifying, whether you actually get to do a consult with the attorney or the commission or commitment coordinator, is what we call non-attorney salespeople, is depending on those questions. So the more questions that you ask, the more friction's there. But the more it's kind of a supply demand kind of thing. The more supply you have, depends on the friction that you're going to have to put in there, right? So the more you're getting, the more friction you're going to have to get. The less you're getting, the less friction you're going to have to allow.
Okay.
So the less questions, less qualifying questions that you're going to have to ask before they get an appointment with you. But the lifeline was really that, because we were just getting hammered with all of these family law consults, and time after time after time, they were like, yeah, I really need help. Do you do payment plans? No, I'm not going to do a payment plan. I really need help, but I don't have any money. I'm sorry, that's not what we do here. But
Right.
after doing hundreds of those and only getting a couple clients a month, like, you got to figure out that that's the real problem is not more leads. It's qualifying those leads and only talking to the people that you want to work with. And that's part of the marketing function too. But the C.A.S.E.² frameworks really it starts off with when they pick up the phone. Marketing is a separate problem. The actual the sales conversation is a separate problem, which is going to be the next book, which is the retain framework.
Okay.
But yeah, the C.A.S.E.² system is really a lifeline, because without those screens and filters before they even talk to the person that they need to, you would just be doing free consults and not be getting the best ROI on your marketing spend or your time, because we're not talking
What's
about.
the argument? I know people are sort of like, oh, paying for a consult. Like there are so many attorneys that won't
Mhm.
charge me. I could just go talk to them and like get some free info, not necessarily advice, but get some free info. Like, what's the argument to have a paid consult?
Well, one, for me, for our firm, it's a big qualifier, right? Because we got people that are calling the firm that are interested in our services. Some have money, some that don't,
Right.
some that have already learned about us through our marketing and our branding. So when they call us, it's really about the qualifying. The free portion of it, as far as free versus paid, there is a big, should I do this or not?
Right.
But the C.A.S.E.² framework kind of lays it out as far as it's a numbers game, right? Because if you have, like I said, 100, you could do 100 free consults. But if you add that friction in, let's say it's only a $50 consult, that's going to be less friction. So the person that wants to do the services is going to pay for that.
Right.
So the higher the fee, the more friction. And
Well, I
whether
think
you're
that's really smart, especially in something like family law, where you can get a ton of people calling in. Say somebody just had one fight with their spouse, and they're like, "Hey, I need to talk to you. I need to talk to you." And then before you know it, they're taking up an hour of your time. And then the next day, they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't need you." So this is kind of qualifying. The friction qualifies the clients to see how serious they are. That's like one factor to see how serious they are in having an attorney.
Yep, there's that, and it's kind of indications to pay. So, like, even if they don't pay for the consult, if they come to the consultation for free, if you knew beforehand that they don't own a house, they have a job that doesn't pay very well, their spouse doesn't have a job that pays very well, that doesn't have a lot of indications that you're going to be getting paid, because the average fee for family law is $2,500 all the way up to 20, 40, 50, over 100, depending on the end of the case. But if you don't know those before you're walking in, you don't have a lot of information about whether they're actually likely to sign up. But it also you don't have enough information about what kind of services they would even need.
Right.
Because the higher the income, the more services they're going to need. They're going to need a qualified domestic relations order. If you got investment, you've got houses to sell, so you're going to need appraisals. You're walking into the consultation blind if you're not getting this information, because
Right.
a lot of firms just say, "How can I help you?" "Oh, I need a divorce," and they just schedule them without any.
Is that kind of like, is it similar in a way? I know it's different and it's crossing industries, or not industries, but sort of like legal areas, but like wills and trusts, like they try to kind of get like as much info as they can in order to be able to, figure out like how in depth it's going to be. Is that like kind of similar or not really?
It is. We do have shorter, like before. So our process is they call, they pay, they schedule, and they have to fill out intake forms before the fact. I've spent probably 100 hours just on these forms themselves, because we want as much information at the beginning as possible.
Yeah.
And the best way to get that information is to make it the least, or the easiest for the client to get us the information. So just the flow of my questions is extremely thoughtful, and that's how I put it together. So it's easier for them to get us the information, but for us to get as much as possible without making them annoyed.
Does that only work the intake piece for firms that are getting like tons of leads?
No, it's an essential part of the C.A.S.E.² system, because you're coming into the retain framework with already essentially a roadmap or a strategy of what's going on in the case, because you got names, opposing party, whether it's kids involved, whether it's house involved, whether it's vehicles. You have all this information, so you know what their pain points are. Because if you don't have any kids, we're not going to talk about is the other parent going to be asking for custody, or if they're two low paying jobs, that they're not going to be asking for alimony. And if they are asking for alimony, it's not going to be relevant anyway. But yeah, it's that part is part of the end of the C.A.S.E.² is the enlist and evaluate stage. And the evaluate is essentially them putting the information into your CRM, so the commitment coordinator or the attorney that's doing the consultation has the information they need beforehand. Because part of the retain framework is the very beginning is recruit, and part of the recruit is essentially at the very beginning, right after you get them to agree to your agenda, go over their facts, because the look on their face that they get when they know that you actually took time to look at their case and you actually know what's going on, it makes closing them at the end of that conversation a lot easier.
So, what does C.A.S.E. stand for?
So it's C.A.S.E.². So essentially, there's an acronym. There's two essentially letters in each one. So it's C is conflict and command, A is analyze and assess, S is sift and schedule, and then E is enlist and evaluate. Wow. Now, each one of those is different stage of the call. It sounds long. It's not really. It's just the way that you have to teach the framework so that it makes sense. Because the conflict and command is something that we do. I don't know how many other firms do it this specific way, but I know in family law, when people call, they call and then they just want to offload their whole story right off the bat. So at the very beginning, we say, stop. We're going to do a conflict check. And what that does is it helps pause and reconvene the call after the fact. Because when they get going and they just start rambling on, they're just going to keep going forever. So do the conflict check right at the beginning to stop kind of the cadence of the call, because you want to control the call. So you're doing the conflict check, and then you command it with asking them for you to let them do the agenda. And then you go to analyze and assess to see if they're even a right fit, or if you have the right kind of case that you actually do, because we're in family law, and intake specialists, especially new ones, will book stuff on their calendar that has nothing to do with family law.
Interesting.
So the analyze and assess is both. Your intake specialists have to follow the whole system, but they have to get trained on the system as well. So the analyze and assess is really, do you have a case that we can handle, and are you ready to move forward, and do you have indications to pay? And then afterwards, it's the sift and schedule, where you only schedule the calls that are qualified and then you sift out the rest of them. And in our system, we have that kind of separated as far as different types of reports, as far as, if we're getting a ton of bad leads or rejected potential new clients from a specific marketing channel, we'll look at the messaging there. We'll look at what ads are going on there. We'll see if we need to tweak something, or if that marketing channel just itself draws bad client avatars.
Wow.
So there's just a lot of stuff within the system that
And
you can use, not just in the call, but outside the call.
And you train all of your employees on this, like the intake people. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you did write in your book candidly about like burnout and unpaid work. What was like the final straw moment that you realized that you needed to change the intake system? Did you have a final straw?
Most of the time, it's kind of in between when I fire a sales or commitment coordinator, a non-attorney salesperson, or some of the intake people, because the way that I hire people, I hire a lot of virtual assistants out of other countries. So I usually hire in like batches. So I'll hire 4 to 6 people, and then I'll train them. And if they're not good, then I get rid of them. And if they are good, they stay. But kind of lost track of where we were even talking about.
So I was just asking, like, did you have a moment when you were kind of like, oh man, I got to change my intake system?
Yeah. So essentially, it's each batch of those people. The system that I was training just wasn't doing well because I didn't have all these qualifications. I didn't study how to do the intake process, but refined it for about 2 years. But yeah, essentially, it's just those hundreds of consults that had no place on my calendar, like it should have been in the first place. So just after a long time of that, it was probably a year and a half of just conversion rates being like 5 to 10%. And it's like, I don't understand why we're not getting more clients. And the reason is the qualifications in the first place were just not great. And if you don't have good qualifications at the beginning, it's not going to be a good result, because you're going to get a kicking clients out and firing them, which leads to bad Google reviews, all this stuff. So I think it really was just having to do that many consults without the return on the marketing spend and my time. Because when we're talking about wasting time on consults, it's not just the marketing spend, it's your time, it's the revenue per engagement that you are getting new clients. Like, it's a cascading domino effect of revenue, enjoyment, stress, how you live your life. It'll wear on you.
It's too much. And this is all, it is geared towards family law, right? It's not, is it transferable, you think, to like another area of law?
The C.A.S.E.² system itself, I think, would work. It works. It's a framework, so it'll work with kind of anything that's consumer facing.
Okay.
I've done some B2B sales and stuff like that on the B2B side, and B2B versus B2C is a little different, and I'm best at intaking and selling family law clients. So the consumer-based practice focus for the book itself is kind of where I was at, because like I said, I've done nothing but DUIs, I've done nothing but bankruptcies, I've done nothing but personal injuries. So they'll work. It's the same framework that I used for all those practices, but it's just been fine-tuned over the past 9 years based on all of those different practice areas. But this one's the frick factor is more geared solely for family law attorneys, but the C.A.S.E.² framework will pretty much work for any consumer facing practice area.
Okay, so what would you say, like, which part of it like tends to transform a firm the fastest?
As far as which part of the C.A.S.E.² system?
C.A.S.E.², framework.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first two are definitely it, because the conflict check right at the beginning, because if you don't stop people from unloading their story like before they get started, it's really hard to stop them after that.
Yeah, it is.
So once they start getting in there, you say, I appreciate you telling me that, but before we can move any further, we got to do a quick conflict check. Do you mind if I place you on a brief hold? It stops them, collects the person taking the phone call, because they're going to have a little bit of jitters after they get yelled at about how bad their spouse was. And then right after that, commanding the call. getting a solid agenda, getting the other person to agree to that, and then after that, analyzing and assessing it. And when I'm talking about the analyze and assess phase, it's really actually customizing the qualifications for your specific firm to what you want to get let in the door. But just the conflict and command section will help a ton. Because like I said, most intake specialists, if a firm has those, if it's not just the receptionist, they don't have a script for those people to do. And there's scripts that you can tailor to your firm in the book.
Gotcha. So you also challenge the idea that like more leads, and I know we kind of touched on this, is like better. So why is the mindset so common, but it's really harmful, like solo attorneys? Like this seems like something that would really help. I think it's geared with like small law firms and like solo firms. I think you mentioned that, but why is that mindset harmful?
Well, a business doesn't function in a vacuum, right? You've got different parts of it. You got marketing, you have sales. Those are two different things. You've got legal operations. You've got all this stuff. And if it doesn't work all together, then it just doesn't, it's going to break and it doesn't grow enough. So if you've got, capacity to do X amount of cases, the more leads isn't going to do it. So, and in that case, you're going to want to be even more selective, because if you're going to have X amount, you don't want that many leads. The more marketing you do, the more leads you get. But if you're not good at marketing, you're not going to get the good leads in the door anyway. You're probably just going to be doing general advertising like we've been here for 100 years. So the people that are calling, they don't quite even know whether you're a specific practice area lawyer or not. I hear that all the time as we get calls from all kinds of different practice areas. And until your marketing's done correctly, and only the people that you want are calling, the intake is kind of the best instant buffer to put in that place.
Right.
And just getting more leads is not going to help anything, because it's going to make the intake person a lot more busy. It's going to probably make them a little more rushed, but it's also going to be the person doing the consultations is going to be having that domino effect of, if you're not filtering these people out with more leads, because if you just get more leads and bad consultations, it's not going to transfer into revenue. And without the revenue, you can't hire more people to fill out the rest of the business that you need done, like marketing, finance, operations. If you want to build a business, you have to fix them all kind of at one time.
Yeah.
And until your intake system is fixed, then the other back end of other stuff can't get fixed. And that's kind of where I'm at right now. I've turned my marketing down by like 80% just because we have too much supply and not enough demand as far as the attorneys go, because we don't have enough attorneys to fill the demand.
That's crazy. That's a lot. That's it's wild. So and the way you talk about qualifying these clients for your firm, it's kind of like a professional sales organization would do, right? Like we kind of touched on that. And why do you think attorneys like struggle with this shift? Do you think like they feel like they're not going to have enough, like that sort of thing? And it's like, how would you say attorneys can overcome that uncomfortableness?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
or discomfort rather.
Yeah. I mean, part of it's you don't know what you don't know. We didn't go to business school. We went to law school, and most attorneys don't even look into it. It's kind of hard to put a finger on it, but it's one of those things that it's out of sight, out of mind. And if it's working, why should I try to fix it when they could fix that specific portion of it, and then everything else will grow? Kind of the same thing, because if you have a business, you have constraints. Sometimes leads is the constraint, sometimes it's not. But as far as getting out of that mindset, it's kind of, you just need more clients, and they don't know how to do the marketing or the sales or the intake correctly. So that as long as they just do more marketing, get more leads, eventually they will get more clients, but it will be at the same low conversion rate. But they don't care because they're getting more clients. They're spending more money on marketing. They're still getting the same conversion rate, but without fixing the system to get better odds of getting good clients, they don't see that as a problem.
Okay. What are the metrics or like the KPIs or whatnot that small firms should use to track the success of an intake system like the C.A.S.E.²?
Yeah. So I'm going to have a whole separate training on top of the K-squared after
Wow.
that, because metrics that matter are actually very important. You don't have to track very many, because you got total number of leads, which is how many people are calling. You got total number of qualified leads, which is, people that were qualified, and then people that are scheduled. So we've got qualified leads, we've got scheduled leads, we have shown up leads, and then you have the conversion rate from, who actually showed up to the firm, signed up as clients. And at those are the kind of the levels that I look at, and those are kind of the only metrics that I track, because you can track an unlimited number of things. Like I use the number, or use the word "the" this many times in the ad. It's not going to change much. So just track the stuff that actually matters. So the qualified leads to scheduled could be a script issue. It could be a payment issue, as far as, the $100 is too much, $50 is okay, $500 is okay if we're doing a full blown consultation. It's a lot of identifying where the problem is, and then coming up with solutions to fix it at that stage.
Okay.
Because the show up rate could be, you're not letting them schedule fast enough, or you're scheduling them too far out so they're not showing up, or you're just not doing anything in between that time frame to remind them. So at each different level of those things, whether it's qualified lead, whether they actually scheduled, whether they showed up, and whether they converted, if you're tracking those metrics, you can see which part of the funnel is actually breaking down.
Wow. It's that's a
And
lot, Joe.
yeah, I know.
I think you should go in and like actually offer your services at these firms. Like go in and consult with the family law firm. I think that should be like the top tier of
Frick Factor package,
the frick
Frick
fact
Factor, Frick Factor featured package.
frick factor featured friction package. No, but seriously,
Bringing it.
because I mean, talking about all this stuff makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to, but I got my kind of skill in the law firm at the moment. So if anybody wants to come by my law firm, or give me a pile of cash to come make your term as good, let me know.
There you go.
Yeah.
So would you say like scripts improve professionalism rather than make the law firm sound robotic? I know like some attorneys are like resistant to using them. They want to just be like, pick up the phone. You've got gold, like Ari Gold.
Yeah.
Like they want to,
Yeah.
Ari Gold. They don't really. They're resistant to it.
I don't get the resistance, honestly, because it's a script, and I get that you don't want to sound robotic, but if you want a predictable and profitable business, each role has to have instructions, which is an SOP. Like, most roles have SOPs for everything. The
Right.
intake position is no different. So they got to know what to say and when to say it and how to say it. Otherwise, they're just kind of winging it, and you have no idea what they're going to say in the first place. So how are you going to know that they're representing your firm in the way that you want them to, unless you have a script they're ready for them to read off of? Because otherwise,
Right.
they are just out in the wind.
Right. No, I mean I think that that's so true. And then along going back to the consultation fees, what's your advice for communicating that to a potential client or without like turning off a prospect? Like how do you say, oh, we do charge a consultation fee? Um,
Yeah. So we use that with the 3 pillar framework. Um, our 3 pillars are strategy, accountability, and excellence. So it's kind of in the sift stage. It's kind of where you pitch your offer to the potential client. But essentially, you tell them essentially your value proposition. And in the book, it's kind of a framework of how you can do that for yourself. But it's going to be essentially your 3 pillar pitch. We deliver strategy by doing X, we're accountable by this, and you're accountable by that as well. And this is how we demonstrate excellence. So we put those things in the sift and schedule. So, because after you analyze and assess the situation, whether they are a client, has indications to pay, has a case that you want to work with, does want to move forward with it now, that's when you go into the sift and schedule, where you're pitching them on your services. So if you have the paid if you're using the paid consultation, there's a script inside the book that you can use for that purpose. But just implementing the 3 pillar pitch when you're doing it on paid versus free, because you still have to pitch them the consultation, because they may not book it even though it's free. They still have the time commitment. They still have to take off work. you're still selling something, even if it's a free consultation.
Right.
So the 3-pillar pitch works for the paid and the free consultations.
Okay. So what is your advice to like smaller firms or any law firm about like how they can get started and like a small action they can take to move forward with the C.A.S.E.² and the Frick factor?
So the book is going to be for sale. The landing page to buy it right now is at lawyersecrets.com. So it's digital copy now. Once the hard copy gets put out, it'll get on that same page, but you can find the book at lawyersecrets.com.
What's the website again, Joe?
lawyersecrets.com.
Lawyersecrets.com. That's right. I remember that. Lawyersecrets.com.
Yeah, I was going to start a full-blown done-for-you marketing company, but I kind of decided to scale my law firm instead.
It's amazing. I think you could put a lot of other good stuff on lawyersecrets.com, to be honest.
Yeah.
So Joe, like what else would you like to chat about marketing wise? Did we leave anything out about the book? Or I know it's a lot. We've covered a lot about the book, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I just want to make sure we got through everything you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got through anything. I mean, so right now I've got the first book coming out, but I've got several other books that are lined up right after that.
Wow.
And it's been this book took me a long time just to start. I have kind of the frameworks are already built out, so I just got to fill in the books. But the next book is going to be the recruit framework. So the first book is, the C.A.S.E.², where it's just the intake portion of it. The last phase of C.A.S.E.² is enlist and evaluate, which is the handoff to the commitment coordinator or the attorney doing the consultation. So the recruit book is going to be how does the attorney do the consultation after they've been qualified and sat down in front of them? What's going to give them the best prospects, the best possibility of converting that person from an unpaid client to a paid client?
Wow.
And then after that, this is the book that I could write in a weekend because I've been studying this stuff for so long. But my kind of framework for marketing is BAR, so the BAR framework. So essentially it's branding, awareness, and then response. Because at the top of the funnel, which is the most expensive, you're doing branding.
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of the funnel, you're doing awareness or advocacy. And at the bottom, you're doing essentially direct response as far as, call me now if you have this issue.
Gotcha. Okay.
But that book's going to be probably a lot longer just because I want to geek out on it.
That's awesome.
That's why I'm saving it till after that one. But essentially that'll be, how lawyers should be doing marketing and how to use the most expensive part at the bottom part for better results.
Okay. What about the YouTube page? Tell me about that a little bit again.
So the YouTube channel is starting very soon. It's going to be at Frick Factor. So pretty much all of my socials are at Frick Factor at the end. But it's going to be going over the C.A.S.E.² framework. It's going to be going over the retain framework. It'll go over the BAR framework, but it'll also have, stuff with me talking about personal development and stuff with, my personal battles as far as ADHD goes and all the other stuff that being a business owner entails.
Yeah. Wow. That's great that you're sharing all that stuff. Look forward to it. Anything else, Joe? Or is that we good? I mean, I don't mean are we good, but is there anything else you want to touch on? Or we?
I think we covered about it all. Yeah.
Cool. Well, stay right there, Joe. It's a pleasure to see you again. And I just we'll chat for a second. And everybody else, thanks for tuning in. Check out C.A.S.E.² and Joe Frick's book coming out. Definitely going to want it. Family law focused on intake. Stop working on the cases you will never get paid on. The C.A.S.E.² framework that only brings you clients that you want to work with. Wherever you are in the world today, thanks for tuning in. Enjoy yourselves. Cheers.
Thanks.